Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Terminus, and today we are going to check out Techhnolyze episode 9. It's been a little bit since I watched episode 8, but I think I still remember most of it. I'm still kind of very confused about the plot in most cases. I mean, like I said last time, I'm getting more of a feeling for it, for what's actually happening, and I do believe that we're gonna get more and more breadcrumbs as we go on. The motivations of our characters are still kind of very obscured in many ways, though we did have that incident in the last episode where there has been a lot of stuff coming to blows, really, and an almost all-out conflict between the different factions of the different ruling factions of the city, basically, which was kind of caused by our main protagonist, who kind of just jumped in there and was like, let me just fucking go wild. Maybe directed by Ran. We don't know yet. Still don't have that much of an idea of how much incentive she actually has to meddle within that, right? If she's acting according to her visions, or if she has a certain ideology or ideal that she wants fulfilled, or if she's like, if she's connected to a certain faction that might be willing to cause certain events to happen, an outside faction maybe even. So there's always this possibility. That being said, I do think that we do have a lot of interesting things that are probably about to happen soon. I mean, the factions were gonna come to blows either way with all the stuff that Yoshi did and all the other stuff that's been happening. In many ways, I've been thinking about this a lot in my free time, and I do feel like our main protagonist, I think his name is Ichise, right? He, in a way, he almost feels like he is an insert for every one of us, an insert for the audience in a way. More in the sense that he kind of represents a person, an individual that's just thrown into these events, not knowing much about all the goings on around him. Now, obviously, we don't know how much he actually knows, in the sense of how much he knows what world he's living in and how the world works on a technological level, on a societal structural level. We only know that he has experienced a lot of suffering. He has been subject to a lot of cruelty and aggression. He has a lot of aggression himself that is obviously understandable if you've been hurt so much. There's this weird like sexual chemistry thing going on between him and our doctor, who I think he himself is not really interested in that. At the very least, he is not showing any clear interest. And she's like just having like kind of seeing him as his or as her plaything in a way, I do feel, or as an experiment kind of, like she's been doing like the experiments with the rats, with like attaching the limbs and whatnot, and we still don't know what her grand goal is. We've talked a lot about the will of the city. We've talked a lot about like how there's almost some kind of dogmatic belief that the city itself has some kind of conscience, and that we all just live in it, within this living system, kind of. And it's really weird because our space that we're occupying, the location we are in, is not clearly defined. There's a lot of ethereal concepts surrounding that, right? A lot of like vagueness that we as the audience don't know what exactly is happening, and how we're exactly, like how the characters within the city, within this locale, is actually relating to the world, and what grander world exists around it, where we even are located, right? It's so vague that at this point we're not even sure, are we underground, and is the light that's coming in artificial, or is it just a metaphor or whatever? And where do we even exist? Is this like a hypothetical different kind of world, or is it like a post-apocalyptic version of our own world, right, of planet Earth, that as it would exist with the nations that would have existed at the time of like modern times right now? Here we don't know that yet, but there's a lot that's still still unsure, and we only have these little threads that we can connect. The ruling organizations of Lucas, the different kind of factions between the Salvation Union and the Organo, which have a lot of little subgroups with like different like mercenary thug groups, basically. Partially with one of the groups actually trying to take power in this uproar here and going against our leader of the Organo, who I forgot his name, but I'm gonna relearn that. That's not a problem. I'm sure I'm gonna recognize the name when it's getting mentioned again. I did love some of the cinematic choices last time, with like, especially when we had our white suit Organo leaders standing there and being like, the tension almost being palpable as everybody was kind of just right before everything was coming to blows, and he's standing there holding his throne, trying to anchor himself into the world. Basically, that was one of the most impressive scenes, and probably one of the ones I will decide to make a thumbnail, because it has been so seared into my brain, basically. But yeah, it's a highly interesting and a highly artistic series for sure, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So without any further ado, we will get right into it. But I have to say one thing to begin with, and that is I need to make kind of a decision if I do want to keep up this just letting it run its full runtime and you all will be able to sync up with me, or if I want to actually kind of pan and switch over to me stopping every once in a while, as I've been doing with the latest ReZero episodes. I do think for Techhnolyze specifically, I actually want to keep up the timer, because Techhnolyze has a lot of issues when it comes to copyright stuff. So do let me know what you think. If you're like, I don't mind either way. If you're actually syncing up this stuff, then I'll at least leave it for this series. I'll leave it the way it is. And you do know you will always, regardless of what decision I'm actually gonna make, there's always gonna be like the full-length version on Patreon. So don't worry about that. If you're a patron, you can actually just tune in and you can watch it alongside me, no problem. But in cases where there's like for the YouTube version and everything, I'm kind of contemplating if I should just start it and you see what's happening on screen roughly, right? And you can kind of watch along, but every once in a while I'm gonna stop and maybe I'll leave the timer open as I've done with the ReZero thing, and I just do it that whenever I start again, the timer's gonna run on again. I don't know how many people really do sync up, so there's this as well, but yeah, do let me know, write it down in the comments below, but also write stuff in the comments in general. Like, I do notice that a lot of reactors have a lot of stuff in the comments down below, and I do really like a lot of you actually engaging in terms of Techhnolyze, because I feel like Techhnolyze has more comments in general than other shows that I've done in the past or that I'm doing right now. So I do appreciate that. I do read every comment. I find most of the comments, especially when they talk about details or interesting interpretations and all of that, I do find them very interesting. So I do hope you keep engaging, and yeah, let's get into it. But I'm gonna switch a little thingy for a second, and then we'll be diving right in. All right, without any further ado, Techhnolyze episode 9. Let's get this party started in a 3, a 2, a 1. And here we go. Shinji, right? That's his name? Or something along those lines. Shinji, yeah. Folks are dropping like flies. Oh, Onishi, that was his name. A young, ambitious leader with a different idea for the city, right? More freedom-oriented. Alright, round up the boys. There's such interesting angles that we're using here. Oh, that ain't gonna go well. Oof. Actually, turning down the gamma a bit might be a cool thing. I probably won't be able to remember that, like, throughout, but it's fine. That's what I mean with like rustic, you know, like everything is like old rusted metal. Feels very worn out and feels like you can taste the iron in the air, right? If you know what I mean. Yoshi kneeling, maybe observing the whole thing. This tall. Ooh, does he have like a sniper rifle again? Why are you making these decisions on a whim, Yoshi? Wait, did Itzy hop in there? Bro, what are you doing, Yoshi? What is your plan? What are you hoping to achieve? This motive almost reminds me of like the Kinderheim motive with the window in Monster. What do you want with him, though? Like, at this point, his presence, right? Like, the way Onishi treats him feels a lot more amicable, right? Was it like the will of the city kind of thing that convinced him to treat him more like that? Or is it... Did he have plans for him all along? Onishiga? So who are we peeking in on? Says the person who... Ooh, isn't that the setting where we did have Itzy's mother running to that guy who hung himself? That a spy? Using the sewer system? And what is this monument? Like it looks like the Washington Monument, but... It's insane how the light almost blinds everything. This is eerie as fuck. Reminds me of like the train tracks in the beginning. Like in the first couple of episodes. Wait, what was that? I need to reanalyze that. Something was shown here and I don't know what exactly. What is true? Tell me! What the... Something with the obelisk. What problem though? And where are you going? Isn't that the research facility you were at before? Met up with the dog?
問題はこれからの試練をどう乗り切るかだ。連中に会うなら後藤さんに言ってもらうしか方法はあるまい。園田さん、辻中さん、まさか後藤の親父さんに手ぶらで行かせるつもりじゃないでしょうね。
Great father, Goto.
いい年した親父さんにまして入院しているのを引っ張り出すんだ。ただ恥をかいてもらうなんてできねえでしょ。
He needs to keep his dignity. Ooh.
処罰しないで示しつきますか。こうなったのも手打ちなんてひよった大西の責任でしょうが、私の意見どこか間違ってますか。
And he's planning to take over, maybe. Well, this feels very like Neon Genesis with like the council.
もちろん言い出したからには私がやります。私がね。
Hmm. Create a problem, provide a solution? Hmm, who are you? A job. What exactly is that about? Oh, she got hurt in the process. Makes sense.
俺は事務所に戻る。目を覚ましたら連絡してくれ。
わかりました。
Can he keep that construct of order that he has built up and maintained? Can he keep it up? And holy shit, these shots of the monument, like of the obelisk, are insane. So this obelisk plays a central role in the city, but we don't know which one yet. Ooh, I love that shot. With like the legs and which is peeking through them. I thought that was water. Somebody just got shot. A lot of people just got shot. So they raided Onishi's like headquarters probably. He wants to take over Onishi's place, right? Get his stuff. And that was the dog. Oh no, it's not the dog. It looked like the dog.
遠山。
大西さん、事務所には戻らない方がいい。もうあなたの居場所はなくなりました。ここから動いた方がいいですよ。
どういう意味だ？
He works for the enemy though.
被害が出ました。
誰の仕業だ？
丘の上の連中が降りてきます。幹部会であなたに責任を取ってもらうことに決定しました。水野事務所の連中があなたの居場所を探しています。
水野が？
逃げることをお勧めしますが。
Top of the hill. Okay.
なぜ俺にそんなことを。琥珀らの考えか。
大西さん、この騒動に裏で糸引くやつがいるって思ってるんなら、私が探りましょうか、そいつ。
I'm not sure if he's a double agent and playing for both sides, or if he's tricking Onishi here. Cause he was together with the other guy earlier, but maybe he has his own motives.
借りるぞ。
大西さん。
We have the flowers again.
マナ、すぐそこを出ろ。
And that's Yoshi. What does he want? How does he want to do it?
誰だ。
大西さん、せっかくいろいろお膳立てしたのに、それを沈めちゃうなんて、あんた小さくまとまりすぎですよ。大西さん。あなたには嫌顔でも祭りに参加してもらおうと思うんです。
Join the festival.
一緒ならどうです
Does he recognize him because of the way he called him specifically?
そうです。祭りですよ。街中ひっくるめた祭り。
He tried to resist and but he caught it. Ooh. So he's augmented too. The question is how far, and did he just kill her? Holy shit. She's so weird and creepy, it almost feels like she's not human. Oh, you want to do flower dust explosion? Oh no, just fucking make them cough and be unable to see. I'm gonna make him deliver a message. Ah, no, he's interrogating. Spectacle, always with the spectacle. Nishi was earlier, he was saying that the people don't want the spectacle yet. That shot was really interesting, with like him running under the wires. Who's seeing this? It's him. I mean, he clearly cared about his wife. Human or not, I mean, I'm still not quite sure. People do behave weirdly in this series, so it's not entirely clear. Some of them are human or not, but it doesn't matter really. She's human enough to die, at least. That is A lot of sentimentality. He's gonna clean her up. Yeah. Hmm. Gonna be Yoshi again.
遠山
No, it's one of his. Oh yeah, he.
ラカン
Hmm. Onishi kind of losing everything he had so far.
何か答えろ
It's the first time we see him really have an outburst of emotion here. Hmm. Okay, back with the two of them. Oh, no, no. It's actually not the two of them. Yeah, alright, of course, he was sleeping with,
木村さん、
in like, Onishi's hideout.
俺はいいだろ
そんな都合いいじゃない。途中下車なんて。
And this is actually the guy that I thought he was.
他の上の連中も降りてくるでしょ
うお前は何を考えて
People on the hill will be coming down.
う。ちょうどいいんじゃないかな。
お前そんな命令は
命令。もうそんなものはどうでもいい。僕は彼らを啓蒙したい。もっと彼らが自分たちの力を信じられるように。
Believe in their own power.
の使命なんじゃないかって。
よし
It's so weird.
木村さん。あんた、この町に来て何やったの？隠れ蓑に使っただけでしょ。ダメだそんなの。もっと向上しようよ。あんたの無意味な人生にももっと意味持たせなきゃ。
And how do you do that?
君も一緒に行くんだよ。
I'm so confused. Holy shit. Each and every time.
どこへ行く
He's asking question, what?
あなたに会いたがってる。
And we're back to the train tracks. And this is the old guy they said they wanted to be, they wanted to send, or they wanted to get involved. I guess. This looks very different. It looks more regal. Like the train. Less rusted, less old. More futuristic. But in a cold way. Ooh, this looks very cultish. Especially with the red eyes. Holy shit, another absolutely confusing episode. I totally see why a lot of people would drop this at some point. This is something where you really need the investment. Still not sure what we're doing with her, because in this OP, especially if we go by the lyrics as well, she's supposed to be, or made out to be, some kind of like romantic interest for our main character. But I don't know if we're actually going there, if this is what we're doing or not. I'm really not sure about that. Yeah, I don't know what to say, really, all that much. All right, let's get it from the top. Our plot moves on things happening that Onishi doesn't want. He definitely is on the back foot at this point in time. He's losing control of the city. Different forces are moving against him. Not just his own men who are losing like trust in him, right? This council of people that almost seem like, I said that, almost seem like the council in Evangelion, or maybe also, if you know video games, Deus Ex, right? The Illuminati council, basically, who are kind of the players behind the scenes, but leaders of big powerful organizations, and kind of convene with one another in order to keep the peace, keep the order, and keep their own selves in power. And there seems to be people who smell the opportunity to actually acquire power for themselves, right? All of these leaders and be like, everything's went to shit thanks to Onishi not holding the peace. Interestingly enough, he's been holding the peace long enough, it seems, right? He's been in charge of everything for a long time, and now people are like, oh, come on, look, because he convened with the enemy, right? The Salvation Union. All of this has went to shit, and it's all his fault. So we are going to actually deal with this, which is we're going to replace him as the de facto leader and set in somebody new who's actually able to control everybody and who can fix this shit. Which one of them has been like, okay, I can do it. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna do it. And we have this kind of old man that's coming here who supposedly maybe was a leader before, or is some kind of authority figure or like highly esteemed figure that is supposed to help with all of that stuff. They called him, like, at least they made it seem like he's kind of on his deathbed almost, like he's very old and he's almost a geriatric patient or something, right? So there's this element of it. We don't know that person yet. We could have possible we've seen him at the end of the episode when the train was coming and all of that. I don't think it's the person who was actually in the like almost cultish robe. Kind of reminds me of what like the emperor's people are wearing in Star Wars, for example, only that it's not red, it's white instead, right? And we clearly have this almost priest, not priest, but cultist kind of seeming garb that they're in, and they have red eyes, and it's like very, very weird and very different from what we've seen people wear in this series so far. So not quite sure what that is about. But yeah, Shinji, we don't have a lot on Shinji. We only know that he clashed with Onishi for a second. He's got those running emotions because a lot of his people got hurt in that one attack. And obviously he failed with his attempt to actually take over, to use that opportunity to take over, how he's probably been taught from the get-go. Ooh, I do like that transition though. I'll actually speed that up a little bit. Yeah, nice transition here. So what I said, like all of this seems very Lane, very Ghost in the Shell, very much like that, but has its own twist in a way. I do like that we're always kind of showing cables, that we always have these houses, which are kind of really different. We do have like these block houses, which remind you of like Soviet era houses, and then you have different buildings which seem to make up the city center, which are more like stone, and they feel a lot more solid, right? Like antiquated almost. Like this looks like an old Roman aqueduct, basically, which has been repurposed. I mean, it could just be a normal bridge, but you know what I mean. And even like all of these buildings look like buildings which have been there for a longer time, right? It's like they've been built at a prehistoric time, and they've been restored over and over again. And yeah, they're part of the city kind of from the get-go, and they're all surrounding this monument, this obelisk that we have no idea what its significance is, but it feels very much like this is the center point of the city. And I don't know, it feels kind of like it's almost like this is some kind of computer or something, or some kind of like central governing structure of the entire city. Onishi has been always looking at it from his windows, right? And we do have a lot of shots where there's like Onishi looking at something, and it like the window reflecting off of the obelisk, and it's always in view no matter where we are in the city. It feels like almost the entire city is built around the obelisk, which is the central point. I have all of these different shots, like these Dutch angles almost. Like, I guess the expression here is that they're being conspiratorial, or at the very least against the person that we've been following, which is Onishi. I also like this other shot that we had a little while ago when we were talking about the issues with Onishi. We talk about Yoshi in a second, where we do have this, almost peeking around the corner, being like, okay, we listen into this guy actually scheming against us, and he's like, everything is happening according to plan. So he must have either coordinated with Yoshi to do that, and Yoshi is obviously playing his own game, or he must at the very least have planned that if something were to happen, he's gonna be the one to actually take charge, get in on Onishi's assets, right? Because he went into the facility, the dig site apparently, and he's been like, all right, get me some koi, right? It's like, okay, you want to already get some koi in the garden, like this belongs to you now, kind of deal. And I don't know, dig site for what, right? Raffia? Is that the thing that we're digging here, or is it something else that, like, what's the point in this whole construct here? I think later on they were actually killing people there, or maybe it was just a facility that Onishi was in. No, I think it was just the facility that Onishi is in, but we don't know where it's in relation to that, right? What is this place? There's like this scaffolding. It seems very much like an industrial site. Maybe people go to work there. There's like this sickly, like, fringe person here who is apparently or supposedly picking up a coin and just dropping himself off into the sewers. No, not sure what that means, if they're part of an information network that is connected to one of the characters that we know. And later on, like I said, this guy actually wanted to take care of shit, and he was like, I'm gonna do it. And then he talks to this guy he's like, things got complicated, right? And he's like, I have a little job for you. And later on, we see him meeting with Onishi and asking, right, warning him, and then telling him, hey, look, you better not go home, and should I investigate this weird guy for you? And I do assume he means Yoshi by that, so there's that, right? We're kind of investigating Yoshi, and Yoshi later comes in and he's like, I got your wife, by the way, and whatnot, but he's not waiting to kind of want, like, to get anything from Onishi. He's like, Onishi, you know, I set all of this shit up, but you went ahead and had to take control of it, right? And it's very weird in a way. Also very interesting how much he seems to care now about Ishise. So I do wonder, in the grand scheme of things, how he fits in. I do love this shot with the elevator, which is like very monolithic, right? Onishi is still a character that is being displayed very much like a leader, very much like a steadfast person that can't be shaken up, even when he's shaken up, right? And the entire city being in disarray, it feels like shots like these really exemplify that, where we do have like the very, very tilted, right, extremely Dutch angle, and the smoke slowly coming from the city. It feels like everything is in chaos, and like you're unsure what's gonna happen next. As opposed to this, right, we do have this, and then you have that, a very straight shot of a facility that seems very like almost screams science, right, scientific or whatever. Right, but now we're tilting it in an angle, and we're like having Yoshi supposedly being there at the site and just walking up, and then with his 2 feet, and us looking slightly through to see a little bit of the background, but not enough to actually make an educated guess of what's gonna happen. You have that, right, this side, but it seems very much like a pseudo-Japanese garden, but in stone, instead of having the usual like wooden bridges and actual nature in there. You have that meeting, like we said. I do love all of the wires in the city that are being, like, even above him, it feels like everybody here in the city is kind of connected and interconnected, and it also feels like we're kind of trapped in this little cage. We do have the reoccurrence of the flower. I still don't know what that means. Last time it felt like it represented hope for Ichise, right? Like guidance in a way. I do know, like, his wife earlier spoke about how supposedly she can hear the city, right? And was talking to him about it, right, to Onishi, so I'm not sure. She acted very weird from the get-go. She seems very mannequin-esque, right? Very, look at that. The way she acts, it doesn't feel like somebody entirely human, but she could just be different, right? It's so weird. I went through so much trouble arranging this, but you just had to bring things back under control. You're too petty-minded. What do you mean petty-minded? What's petty about trying to keep things under control, right? What do you want? Let's see. A spectacle. What is the spectacle? Because we talked about this as a thing. We didn't talk about that as like a spectacle in general, right? We talked about this as an occurrence that has occurred in the past, that sometimes is demanded by the population or by the different factions in the city in Lucas. We have mentioned that as a thing of that, right? Like spectacle specifically as an event that has a name and is not just a concept in a way. Try to attack him, and he is definitely not organic, right? That is the point here. Wait, let me go. Yeah, he's definitely not organic entirely. It almost feels like he's not at all. I might be wrong there. I don't know if he's a cyborg or whatever, but it could very well be, right? Could very well feel like that. Yeah, him looking upon that, and you do have to think about it. All of that has been falling apart for him in the last couple of episodes. Like him being at the head of this organization of power, and suddenly everything falls apart, everything just breaks off, and he has to try to keep the pieces together, but he can't. He has enemies that he doesn't know who they exactly are and what they exactly want. Not even we as the almost omniscient audience does know what's happening here exactly. Right? We do have this guy who told Yoshi a little bit of like information about the city and everything, and now we do have him actually being involved in this on Yoshi's side. Yoshi wants him to do more stuff, right? Don't quit halfway through. What are you thinking? I think it'd be nice, a nice attraction for the spectacle. Yeah, we talked about like this people on the hill, right? Coming down, amazing angle by the way. Yeah, and what does Ran have to do with them, right? She brought him here, apparently, and she's connected to Yoshi in the way that in the beginning we met, like Yoshi met Ran, and Ran took us to like the sage or whatever it was, and the sage sent Ran and Yoshi down into the city, but we don't know. You don't need me anymore, right? But I want you. The people up on the hill will be coming down pretty soon. 2 times we heard that statement. The people up on the hill. Where's the hill, right? Like, which hill are we talking about? Is it like a metaphorical hill in the sense of like the people at the top of the ruling chain are gonna come down pretty soon, and this is gonna be very important, right? We're gonna show them, give them a spectacle, basically, upset the order. What are you thinking? It will be a nice attraction for this, but there's no order, Dad. An order? I don't care about such things anymore. I want to enlighten them so they can believe more in their own power, right? So he wants to free Lucas in a way, right? Wants to show people that they don't have to be controlled? Or is it more something else, something dogmatic, something almost cultish in its own way? What have you done since you came to the city? You've only used it to shield and hide behind. That's not right. You have to try to improve. You have to give more meaning to your meaningless life. And he seems almost like he's like really scary here with like the way we shoot with the light and how the shadows are over his eyes. You're coming too. And he's saying that to Ran, and Ran's like, sure, whatever. Right? We can't read her. She has a perfect poker face. We do have that little talk. Onishi-san wants to see you. We do have this person, whoever they are, cultish as fuck, standing there. But yeah, there was this one moment, this one single moment that I don't know if I'm gonna find it, but I do hope I can find it. It's this one moment that I wanted to highlight because it feels a lot like... Because there was this one moment where I was like, that is weird. I do want to see what that is all about. It very much felt like And she is tracking him. She's tracking Ichise. I don't know if Onishi knows about that, but still don't know what's up with her, right? Like, what's her design and who is she connected to, right? This kind of stuff. It's so weird. And the monument. You have all of these closed windows. Very interesting. Every window has like a closed, is kind of closed or has bars on it or whatever. And the sun almost seems to outshine everything here, right? Is it the sun or is it like some kind of light? Either way. And this, I wanted to see this, right? We do have all of these like, almost like stalagmites going up, right? These very, very sharp stone objects, right? And there was something here, and I don't know what it is and in which capacity. This is so weird. Like, is this our location? Is this our location? Is this our city? Is this Lucas? In the grand scheme of things, it feels so weird to actually... I don't know how to... like, I can try to up the gamma a little bit to see what's happening here, but it feels like there's a lot of like rocks and whatnot that we don't have any connection to, so what is happening here? But we do have these very small structures here and there, like on the right side of here and on the left side a little bit higher than that. It feels like this could be normal like variations in stone or whatever, or it could literally be us being like all the way zoomed out and looking at where we are for the first time ever. So I'm not sure what that means really. I'm really not sure, right? We do have all of these like yeah, I mean all of these little gray squigglies could be human built shit, but we don't know if that's the case. I wouldn't be able kind of really imagine the landscape we have seen with like the different facilities and the lake and whatnot and the train stations to actually be at the side of a hill. That is very weird. So maybe I'm just making things up as we go. Either way, a lot of shit happened. As I said, I don't know if we're gonna actually have her be romantic interest because that's how it feels in the ED. Don't know if that's gonna be a thing. I don't know how old Ran is. She seems rather young, but you never know, depending on the art style and whatnot. We do know that she only reaches to a certain height of most people, so it makes sense that she would be younger. But how young, we don't know exactly, right? She's clearly not a child, since she's very conscious in the decisions she makes, like very intelligent supposedly, right? At the very least, acting in some kind of order and for example, taking our main character and actually leading them somewhere. But that could be her vision ability, I don't know. So, very weird. Very unsure what that means in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, that was Techhnolyze episode 9. I might actually jump into episode 10 right away. I'm feeling like doing that. That probably means that maybe possibly in one of the weeks you won't get another Techhnolyze. But it's also possible that it doesn't mean that. It depends what I'm gonna record beyond that. But yeah, I do hope you check out the other stuff I do have. I know my Techhnolyze reactions are a little bit more mellow. I know they're a little bit less energy, but I do know that, or I do believe that the main audience who's actually watching that, you don't need me to be that high energy for this kind of series. Especially, I think you'd appreciate if I'd be a little bit more contemplative and a little bit more just taking it all in and trying to make sense of it. I feel it's just this kind of serious. But yeah, I'll catch you on episode 10. Welcome back to Techhnolyze episode 10. And let's get started. I don't want to talk about it much. We talked about episode 9. We're probably going to do this in the same week if I'm having some delays in some of my stuff. Maybe I'll do it the week after. Either way, let's get episode 10 started, shall we? Technolyze episode 10 starts in. And we start here at the train station with the weird people with the hoods. Do they speak? Who are they? What are they? It's a very deliberate choice, only showing one eye. Longs for the world on the hill.
急いでなんかいませんよ。勝手にこの街がスピードを上げてるんです。あなたにはついていけないんでしょうけど。
The city is.
この子や今から訪ねる子みたいにより若い子に僕が思っていることを伝えたい。
The city is speeding up. So cryptic as fuck. Conclusion. What kind of conclusion are we gonna come to? Ooh, this is a very interesting point of view shot. Grenades. Right, we are in absolute war territory. Turmoil. Infighting. Familiar locales. Partially.
店はまだだよ。おい、大西見たらすぐに知らせろ。分かったな。
He's already gone.
戸ぐらい閉めたらどうだ。急ぎだったもんね。
Ooh, he is there.
しか揃わなかったけどよ。
Alright. Only she still has his contacts. Still has his trustworthy people.
少ないが。水くせえよ。
俺が持ってても仕方ない。10年前に戻ったようだな。
10 years ago. Okay. And the koi are swimming now.
女のやさにもいません。まあ、大西のことは慌てなくていいか。それと、辻中さんと井崎さんから連絡が来ました。向こうから何人か出したいって言ってるんですが。辻中と井崎？クソじじいだが。俺が本気だと分かったら急に乗り気になってきやがって。そのだと小悪だわ。何もこっちが役立たず集めて派閥作っちまって変にあの二人に結託されてもな。まあしゃあねえ。人で集まったんならラカンの縄割りちょっともらっとけ。は、分かってるな。
Territorial infighting.
そのものを配置します。
This is hard, I guess.
新客だな。
こちらに園田さんがいると聞きまして。
Sonoda.
最大勢力の園田さんとこ無視するのは愚の骨頂だ。
派手にやってるらしいね、水野は。だが、いざ水野と敬吾なら。
園田さんは敬吾を嫌ってると思ってました。
そういう小伯良さんはどうなんですか？このままじゃ手柄全部水野に持ってかれますよ。
園田さんを見習います。無駄な争いはせず、周りが疲れるのをじっくり待ちましょう。
Kind of the Onishi threat, almost.
シンジ、オルガンのやつら、こっちの島までうろつき出しやがった。シンジ、こっちが連合と潰し合ってる間に、まさか大西が一人で出てきたな。そういうことなのか。 けど奴ら大西のことも探してるぜ。
大西をこっちはどのぐらい集まってる
6割ってとこだな。怪我したやつもいるし。
本当は逃げ出したやつの方が多いのかな。
And he appears again.
お前
ラカンは自由意志メンバーの集まりだったね。すると逃げ出すことも自由なわけだ。
Yeah, there's no.
集団は組織だって統率されている方が圧倒的に強い。オルガノとまともにやり合っても勝負は見えてるんじゃないのか。
てめえ知った口聞いてんじゃねえぞ。
なら聞きたいね。なんかいい方法があるんだ。
ああ、あるよ。
An
来て
offer.
今丘の上の住人がこの町に。
なんだと
君はどう思う？
From the top of the hill.
チャンスかもしれないな。採掘場に被害が出た今ならオルガノの信頼は揺らいでる。俺たちが連中につけ込む余地はある。
三つどもえに勝つには他と同じ目線で物を見てちゃダメだ。
You can't afford to see the same way your
僕ら
opponent.
も今から見物に行くとこさ。一緒に来るかい？
A three-sided war.
そういうことなんか。
お前ら俺が帰ってくるまで勝手に動くな。分かったな、ある。
Don't trust him, to be honest. He's just using all of you. But
お前ら手分けして国境警備に当たれ。
でもシンジは。
シンジは手を出すなって言っただけだ。
mm,
地の庭先うろうろされて睨み聞かせねえやつがどこにいる。
don't attack, just guard. Observe. There's so many moving pieces, it's really hard to keep track. And I don't barely know the other factions, right?
大西。出る。
Wait, you shooting him? Didn't he just say don't attack? I mean, I guess it doesn't count for Onishi, but... Skill issue, I guess.
やさに客人がいたはずだ。どこにいる？
知らね
And he's after Yoshi. Because he knows he... I mean, obviously he told him.
いえ。
Ooh, I love this shot. So much smoke, right? Almost from like the gunfire and the fires and whatnot.
逃げなかったのか。車
Who is...
奴はここにはいない。
Each is still with her. Okay. Ooh, I love how the train tracks bend in our view of the building here. Hmm. And this is our like building of the council. And this is our guy. Great father. Okay.
時間がかかるな。
匂いが気になるそうで戦場をやり直させています。
そうか。
Yeah, because they killed a bunch of people.
報告するつもりですか。
確かに中原んとこの若い衆に対する処分は重かった。だがその分警護は組織の先行きを本気で心配してるのかもしれん。
は？
水の程度が仕切るようになったら オルガノもしまいよ。水野は何度わしの見舞いに来たと思う。
存じません。
一度も来ておらん。
Ah.
剣は毎週やってくる。
But is Keiko just doing it out of calculus?
さあ、人間最後に物を言うのはそういったことだ。
Is it? Keeping up appearances, is that what makes a person? I mean, obviously it's also if he's serious about it, it's also character in a way. Honoring your the people that came before you. Respecting them, asking for their advice. Thanking them for their service for the organization and whatnot. The interesting thing is we haven't talked about Organo and about Onishi so far. Ooh, this is so interesting. Okay, so we're observing this as Yoshi. Has Yoshi ever had the ability to actually look upon these people who are supposedly puppeteers? The class. The people of the celestial world. Okay. Weak. Invalids. Invalids. Shooting this guy. Oh, who are we shooting? Is he gonna stop him? Kind of, right? That's the conclusion you come to. And that takes precedence. I loved how we only showed part of him. From a different world. There's too much that is unknown to him. That's how it looks. He has more knowledge, so is the question. But why? Okay, he had his failsafe, that's why he's here. A leader who will awaken you all. It almost feels like no one in the city is awake. Almost feels like Matrix-like. But or is he talking in metaphors? Rafia is the only thing worth in the city. And Onishi knows he's there. And that brings him back into the picture, right? She talks again. First time in like a couple of episodes.
行ったら
If you go. What happens if you go? Are you gonna die if you go? Is that it? Onishi and his fucking sword.
大西さんか。とことん僕の邪魔をするんですね。あなた、街の声が聞こえるんでしょ？
The voice of the city.
僕のことなんて言ってるのか。あ、そういえば奥さん哀れでしたよ。あっけない最後だった。いや、案外あれでよかったのかな。
He's trying to provoke him, but Onishi isn't getting himself provoked.
お兄さん、あなたのせいで。
Holy shit, bro just fucking punched through, kicked through the wall. Of course he has augmented limbs. But we know like Yoshi is too. Yeah. Is he dead now? Shit. Hidden Blade Man. Almost an actual cyberpunk augmentation, like the switchblades. Shit, he didn't see that coming.
お兄さん、少しは泣きわめいてほしいな。地上じゃこんなこと味わえないから。
Is Ichisa gonna save him?
何がやりたい？基本的に大西さんと同じかな。でも僕のやり方はあなたの遥か先を言ってるけどね。
What does he mean by that?
いろんなものが見えるんですよ。大西さん、そんなに何も見えてないんじゃ生きてても面白くないでしょう。とっとと奥さんのところへ行ったら。おい。
Yeah. Interesting.
うせろ。
He didn't see that coming. That is a big fall. But have we saved Onishi or is he dead? Could be on his dying breath now. Very well possible that Ron has seen this future. Where did he run off to? Oh yeah, he's hurt, but he's not dead. Yet. He might be on his dying breath too, though. And remember in the beginning he told Ran, don't tell me about my future. Ooh.
やっぱり何も変わらない。
何も変わらないか。
崎村さん。
よし。疲れたろう。
He doesn't look. And that's the end of Yoshi? Question mark. He's a central character. I don't know if that's the end of him. This ED always kind of feels like a palate cleanser, right? Like it washes over you like a gentle rain. Basically after all of the chaos that happened during an episode. So weird, so weird, so weird. I mean, there's more and more that we're getting, but the problem is, as I've started to say at the end of the episode and the beginning of the ED, problem is, and why it's so hard to read Yoshi, and some other characters too, but mainly Yoshi, is we don't have the same knowledge base Yoshi has. Right? We are born into this world, basically, almost like our character Ichise. Just existing here and not being sure entirely how our world works or what's happening around us. Everybody around us knows more than we do, the audience. And it's very hard, especially if somebody is out there who, like Yoshi, who supposedly knows so much more than we do, knows a world that exists beyond our own world, right? Almost a universe outside of our own little pocket universe. At the very least, if you believe him, because the problem with characters like Yoshi is often they talk like they know everything, right? They have a plan, the perfect plan, and they know exactly what's gonna happen. And they know so much more than you, and they want to enlighten you, but oftentimes, can you really trust that? Can you really trust that information that is coming out of there? Or do you have to actually take that apart and kind of doubt on some of these things he's saying, because he's constantly telling everybody something else? He's telling one person one thing and the other person the other thing. He's setting things up. He's creating things. And so you do start to wonder that with all of the masks he's creating, which, like, is there one person among all of those that he's being real with, that he's actually telling all of the truth? Because what I believe is that he's certainly putting in crumples of truth for every discussion that we see here, but I do think that in many cases he's telling a lot of lies or obfuscating information. He's being very vague and not telling us what's actually happening, and he's just promising us a better world, and basically that there's something out there that is grander than us, and if we're enlightened, right, if we get at the top of that hill, basically, be that a metaphorical one or a real one, we are actually gonna realize how insignificant the world is that we've been living in all of this time, right? And it's so weird because these sentences, right, all of the things he's saying, it feels so self-assured and dogmatic that you can't help but wonder if some of that is nonsense, if some of that is lies, or if some of that is just him being so blinded in his own delusion, right? So blinded in his own, like, ideas of how the world is supposed to be, in his ideology or his grand plan, whatever he had, that ultimately it's not reflecting the entire, like, objective truth, right? Obviously, the entire world is subjective in a way. The entire world depends on how we subjectively view things, but there's obviously certainly a commonly shared reality that certain people share, right? That you can kind of observe. Things like, I don't know, we all live on planet Earth and Earth is round, right? Even if some people still want to deny that, but you can not objectively, but you can at least subjectively and as a species basically do so many experiments and make so many observations that most of you can agree on that. And that's the thing. You do get to a common consensus, and that consensus does seem to be, like, Yoshi's idea of how the world works seems to deviate a lot from the consensus of those people who were born and lived in Lucas for a long time. Very interesting that Onishi is supposedly on his dying breath. We don't know if he's actually gonna die. And at the same time, Yoshi is supposedly on his dying breath and just maybe got shot in the head. So he might be dead as well. Two big characters that we've been building up and that came to a clash right now, and now through the actions of our main character, Ichise, actually, Onishi more or less got that stalemate, or maybe even the victory. There's a boy who longs for the world on the hill, and I want to show him. Do we talk about a literal boy, or is it a metaphor again? Maybe he means like in general, as a representation, right? There's a boy in this city, Lucas, and I want him to realize that world on the hill that exists. Or he's talking about Shinji in this specific case, because Shinji obviously wanted to at least look, right? I'm not in a hurry. This city is picking up speed on its own accord. And I do think we're talking about like just the events happening in the city in general. Though you probably can't keep up. And he's like looking very dejected, right? He's looking very worn down and exhausted. And we do feel that through him as a character. I want to let young people like this one, and the ones we're going to visit, know exactly what I'm thinking. The ones we're about to visit. Right. All of this conflict happening in the city, all of them searching for Nishi, but Onishi is going for Yoshi, actually. And this old politic thing, do let me know if this is something I need to keep track of, because there's so many names going on, and some of them are dying and some of them are not, right? We have Jujinaka-san and Isaki-san. They want to join this guy who is like, I don't know, something with M. And then we do talk about the other ones, right? Those old fools, right? It's the two. I mean, I've seen those two, right? I've seen those two. I don't need to see them again. And then, like, we do have the other ones who are supposedly not joining. What about Sonoda and Kohakura? Sonoda and Kohakura, those are those two, which I can't clearly identify because we see very close-ups of their face only. What about under nothing? It wouldn't do to create a faction with a bunch of half-wits, right? The Izanagi and whatever. If it's gonna make those two get in league with each other because they're dangerous, supposedly. So they've got enough manpower. They want to get like some Rakan's territory, which is Shinji's group, right? We'll deploy men from the Tujinaka and Izanagi's offices to the front line, basically using them as cannon fodder in this case. And now we do have the other ones, which is like Sonoda-san, Sonoda and Kohakura. I'm probably not cutting much of like that discussion. Sorry if I'm moving on too slowly for you, but I'm just trying to figure that out. The office has the greatest strength. I hear Mizuno's acting very ambitiously, and that's Mizuno, right? The other guy, this guy here, that's Mizuno. Right, and then it's like, but if it comes down between Mizuno and Keigo, I don't quite know who Keigo is, but whatever. I thought you didn't like Keigo, and he's like, how about you? If you don't take action, Mizuno will snatch all the credit. And he's like, I want to avoid pointless conflicts and wait out until everyone is exhausted. And he's kind of like following your example, right? And they're probably gonna be the ones left standing at the end because they're just waiting it out. Dutch angle on the candle. Yeah, and we're like reorganizing, and he just shows up when he finds it convenient. Shinji is observing that very, very well. He's like, you just show up, right? You're just here suddenly, and you're like, oh, hey, I want to show the boy. The world on the hill, I guess. That's the idea. We're kind of fleeing. The interesting thing is how he's treating. Like, is this just... Let's talk about Ichise for a second. It's very interesting how calm he's acting at this point. I do wonder if, like, all of these, like, this phase that we had with him was an active psychosis of him that was triggered by his trauma plus the new adaptation to, like, right, trauma of losing his arm, trauma of, like, having all of these things done to him, trauma of going back, right, through, like, maybe even childhood trauma with his mother and whatnot, and that just summing itself up and then coming to the point that he had to adapt to his new cyberware, which probably heavy mental effects on you in the beginning. So I do wonder if this is like been the effect, and now that he's been restabilized and has found somebody that he supposedly wants to support, or at least wants to not beat to death, we do have a more calmer protagonist, supposedly. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here because I don't know about Ichise. And we hear like this is the old man where we're talking about like keeping the organo up, and he's like he doesn't want to let Mizuno take the reign because Mizuno is bad for the organo, supposedly. How are you going to explain about Keigo? And who is Keigo, right? Who is Keigo in all of this? Have I seen Keigo before? I'm sorry if I'm ignoring that, but I agree that the way Keigo dealt with Nakahara's young man was harsh. It may well as well be proof that he's truly concerned about this organization's future. Right? Visiting is like, it's very interesting how he's observing that he's getting visited regularly by this person without maybe having any indication of clearly dying anytime soon, but at the very least that kind of shows concern. Now obviously it can be a calculated play to be like, okay, I'm gonna start visiting this old man because I know at some point in time he's gonna kick the bucket, and then him knowing that I've visiting him all this time has a big impression on him. But even that could be seen in a way as like just caring about keeping charge of the organization and just wanting to continue it rather than just playing your own games and not caring about this kind of person. But yeah, we're meeting with these, which is so interesting. The first time we actually see that, and like the entire surface here looks otherworldly, and this feels like a church place basically. And we're kind of looking into that, and he's like, so that's the class, that's one of the class. Yes, the people of the celestial world that you long for. So interesting. And then like we're talking a lot about the people on the hill, and I'm actually gonna look that up for a second. Alright, so this is where this is from. Interesting. City upon a hill is a phrase derived from the teaching of salt and light in Jesus' Sermon of the Mount. Originally applied to the city of Boston by early 17th century Puritans, it came to adopt broader use in political rhetoric in the United States politics that of a declaration of American exceptionalism and referring to America acting as a beacon of hope to the world. Interesting. Because we had this like, obviously this is steeped in Christian mythology, I guess. Matthew's gospel, in which Jesus warns the city on a hill cannot be hid. Ooh, I don't know if that's the actual thing that we're talking about, because I was thinking of the quote of Deus Ex, like the original Deus Ex game. And if I pull this up, there's an interesting thing here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I thought that was maybe it is actually a reference. Let me see. All right, here we have it. Thank you, Reddit. Thomas Aquinas was a 13th century theologian. The phrase "city on a hill" refers to a model society, and it is a reference to the Bible, Matthew 5:14, which we just read about from the New International Version. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds." It was used by colonial era writer John Winthrop in 1630 to describe America's destiny to be a shining example to the rest of the world. President Reagan's farewell speech refers to it as well. I thought a bit of the shining city upon a hill. The phrase comes from John Winthrop, who wrote it to describe the America he imagined. What he imagined was important because he was an early pilgrim, an early freedom man. He journeyed here on what today we'd call a little wooden boat, and like the other pilgrims, he was looking for a home that would be free. I've spoken of the shining city all my political life, but I don't know if I ever quite communicated what I saw when I said it. But in my mind, it was a tall, proud city built on rock, stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace. A city with free ports that hummed with commerce and creativity. And if there had to be city walls, the walls had doors, and the doors were open to anyone with the will and the heart to get there. That's how I saw it and see it still. Interesting. that this is actually President Reagan's farewell speech. Considering all of the shit that Reagan actually messed up in America. But I mean, very interesting. I do wonder if this is actually a reference, right? If this is a reference to this city on the hill, either from John Winthrop in the 1600s, or if this is actually if this is a reference to the Bible, which is obviously the original source here, right? With Jesus saying the city on the hill and all of that, the shining beacon. It certainly makes sense in a metaphorical way, right? That we have like this world that seemingly almost vaguely hinted to be underground or like all the way down somewhere, and there's a world up there where Yoshi is coming from, and Yoshi is saying there's like a, I don't know, there's like a city on the hill, or the hill at least, the celestial world that you long for. Yet they're nothing but weak invalids. And it seems very religious, the way like this person that we are talking to here, the representative for the Organo, seems very, the person the representative is talking to seems very churchy, very like prophet-y and whatnot. But he's trying to upset all of that, right? He's just killing people, but he doesn't just want to kill these people, he's trying to kill this person. I'll destroy what's keeping your power sealed for you. Maybe I'll destroy what's keeping mining that raffia that you could utilize for yourself. Or maybe it's more than that. Maybe there's just something that we're still not getting, some kind of hint and something that we still don't know who Yoshi's master or original like superiors are, right? The people who gave him his mission. Did they just say, go down there, observe, and then do what you think is necessary? Or did they have a certain goal in mind? Do they want to destabilize the region to take it for themselves? Or to maybe, is a closed off region that has been controlled by some kind of tyrannical person or whatever, or like council or power, and that we want to free? Is there like some religious conflicts and fanaticism going on, or what's going on here, right? We do have definitely a lot of parallels to religious metaphors and all of that. So it's very interesting. And even like the way we talk, with like everything through these rectangular shapes, right? And behind them, the way he's standing and he's sitting, or they are sitting, I don't know what kind of person they are. And we do have that moment where it's like, I think he's running out, right? But a lot happened in that second, right? But him shooting, and at the same time Shinji shooting him and just running past. He's like, that's more like it. He likes the challenge, kinda. Like, what the fuck, dude? You're taking way too much pleasure in this. But he wants to go after him, and Ran is like, no, don't go. If you go, I don't know what happens. Maybe you could have stopped Ichise? That could be a thing, right? Where they're having that conflict with that final confrontation with Onishi. And this is the moment when he steps in. This is the moment when he actually comes into play. Possibly maybe as the will of the city, because he's like saying... He's saying, I came here from the outside, I see a lot of things and you're blind and whatnot. But he's also saying, like they say you could hear the will of the city. What is it telling you? He's saying like, I'm doing the same things you do, although my way's far more advanced than yours, whatever that means. And we do have him coming in at the last moment, which is very interesting because like Yoshi doesn't know him specifically. We've met before, right? We've walked past one another. He had a negative reaction to Yoshi earlier on and a positive reaction to Onishi. It's very interesting. Depends on maybe, is it depending on what Ran told him, or is it more just like his feeling, right? Or does he know something that we as the audience don't know, right? Or remembered something that kind of connects him more to Onishi than it does to Yoshi. He certainly is a lot more put together. He feels like less directionless, right? Like less feral, less beast-like, and more like a normal human being who has a clear vision of what he wants to do, right? He has a goal. He has a conviction or whatever it is. Love this shot, right? This very wide shot of like in the distance between the two of them, gazing into his eye. He's like, get the fuck out of here. And he's making the move to attack, but he's not getting there. The fist flowing. And him just being shot down. This is not what he expected. This is not what he expected. And we do have him standing atop like Onishi, who is in his dying throes. And this is the thing, I'm like, okay, he's running away from the city, right? And it's all fog. It's like at some point somebody just forgot to continue building these train tracks up there, or these like this highway. It just ends in nothingness, and you do wonder what's beyond that, right? It almost feels ethereal, like we're earlier on Yoshi said something about like none of you are really awake. And it feels like he almost meant it literally, like we're all in some kind of Matrix-like situation and we all have to be freed from that in a way. And this is what Yoshi's trying to do with what he's doing. And maybe that means that this death, him shooting Yoshi might not spell his death in reality, but just his death in this world. But Ron says, after all, nothing changes. Whatever she means with that, right? It stays the same. Maybe everything repeats in a way. But what does she mean by that? Is that our agent of change, or is it our agent of of order, of keeping everything the way it is? Right? Because change and order don't intermingle with one another most of the time. There needs to be disorder, disconduct. There needs to be, or oftentimes there is. I don't say like there is change with order, but change with order is slower. It's a lot more methodical. It's a lot more step by step. While rapid and big changes often just happen with chaos. They happen with old structures crumbling down, while new ones have to be built in order to survive in a way. But yeah, another super duper confusing banger of an episode. I don't know how much further we are, but the more we get into it, obviously, the more we can kind of glean. And I said that very, very early in like the last episode, in episode 9, I was like, I can understand why some people just drop this series, because it feels very, I said that I think in episode 6, it feels very pretentious. It feels very, very much, I'm gonna tell you one little thing and give you 20 more questions. I'll just be as vague as I possibly can be while still giving you something, right? But all of this information is spread across possibly 22 episodes of an anime, which we just watched 10 so far. So we're almost at the halfway point. And at the halfway point, we're just starting to barely make any sense of what's actually happening here. And this is an investment that many people just aren't ready for, right? This is an investment that this is why a series like this can never be as popular as Berserk. Because a Berserk is a lot more visceral, right? A Berserk is a lot more short fused to your emotions. It's a lot less ethereal, although it does have ethereal concepts as well, right? It has those ethereal concepts are a lot more connected to emotions and to actual real life experiences, as they are here in Techhnolyze, where everything feels a lot more artsy, a lot more abstracted, a lot more removed from the actual visceral experience of life. It's like the difference between living in an actual living, breathing world and doing something, as opposed to doing that within a computer simulation, doing that within a video game or whatever, right? Like it feels a lot more, a Berserk would feel a lot more connected to life. Even a monster feels a lot more connected to life because it tells like a grounded story. Techhnolyze in a lot of the ways, especially not only in the way it actually tells its story disjointed and vague and whatnot, not only in the way it just leaves so much room and space for silence to actually just be there, right? And just the atmosphere to take you in. The atmosphere, by the way, one of the few things that's actually holding you within this series, because oftentimes you're just so frustrated at all of these things that don't make sense yet, right? And all of these characters that you can't really identify with or look into really, aside from like a couple of tiny little specks. There's like a lot of stories are popular because we can identify on a very close emotional level to these characters, or we can just dig our heels into some of these experiences they've experienced, or into some of these ideals that they have. Most of this series is so far removed from that it is natural that a mainstream audience would probably not take too kindly to Techhnolyze in general, would not be as invested in it. And probably if I hadn't made the commitment to actually watch it, I probably would have binged it in a night or two and then just, right, let it rest, I guess, right? And that would have been that. But since I do have the commitment to watch it on a reaction basis, that means on the one hand, it's good because I can think about it for a week or two. But on the other hand, it's also not that great because you do have these disjointedness, because like you have to wait until you get your answers, and this is very frustrating at times. And I do get why a lot of people would probably have dropped this after a couple of episodes, but we're halfway through. Holy shit, let's fucking do it, right? Let's fucking do it. Fuck the low view numbers. At least like a good 40 of you are still watching this and hopefully enjoying this, and hopefully watching most of the discussions. I do hope you're watching most of the discussions, because that would be really cool. That would be really good for my numbers, you know, right? Not just the reaction, also the discussion. All of you who are sitting here were watching the discussion anyway are gonna be like, oh yeah, I watched the discussion. And then everybody who hasn't watched the discussion, they're not gonna hear what I'm gonna say right here. Yeah. That was Techhnolyze episode 10. I hope I'll see you next time. Check out my other stuff. We do Monster every roughly bi-weekly, right? On the Patreon, there's always, or most of the time, not always, but oftentimes there's like the next episode already on, or if you see this in the beginning of like my recording cycle, you might have 3 episodes of Techhnolyze to look forward to on the Patreon. Go check it out, see how many are out. You can even like buy the Techhnolyze reaction series as one thing, which means that you don't have to like have a monthly like Patreon like pledge or whatever going on. You can just buy the collection, and then whenever I react to something like to a Techhnolyze thing, it gets actually added to the collection, and that's that, right? So you just get it, and that's that. But yeah. Go check that out. Go check out my ReZero stuff and Monogatari stuff as well. I would appreciate it. And I'll see you next time on Techhnolyze.